too late. I've got no Wi-Fi at the moment, so I'm just using my phone data, which is a little bit slower than normal. So apologies in advance if there are any interruptions tonight. And I will limit the duration to probably about an hour-ish, just because I don't want to hammer my data too much. There's no one in here that I'm just talking to myself, but I'm thinking more of the YouTube recording afterwards. Okay, someone's there. Hiya, by the way. I'm on my jack at the moment. Evening, Jennifer. I've sent the invites out, so I'm just waiting for whoever's to join. I think it is only Roger tonight, though. Possibly, I'm not sure. I think Ronnie might be busy. I'm not sure whether Kev's joining us. We'll have to wait and see. What was I going to say? It wasn't going to wait for everyone. If anyone is interested in Henry Salt, I've very recently narrated his book, which I would definitely suggest people to go and either listen to or read. If you don't like my voice, then I suggest you read it. But it's not very long. You could read it in like an hour, tops, hour and a half, even if you're a slow reader. But it's pretty sort of insightful to see potentially that the things that as 130 years ago we haven't really moved on from, and we're still campaigning against right now. And if anything, those numbers are far worse. Hey Roger, all right? I was just filling the silence.
Hello.
Do we know if Ronnie is joining us or not? I think I did send him the link, but he kind of said that maybe if he sort of gets whatever he needs to do done.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely, but possible.
Okay, well, he's more than welcome to join us if so. But yeah, I'm not the same as the Kev situation. I'm not sure if Kev's joining us or not, so we'll just kind of proceed. But yeah, the one thing that I definitely did want to make sure that I said during the show, and I might as well get it out of the way first and foremost while I was thinking about it. So Animal Rising have dropped their march for the 26th of August, their march for nature and animals, or however it was dubbed, which I want to personally say credit where credit's due, regardless of the motivation or whether their hand has kind of been forced in this case. I've obviously been very critical of them, well, all year. So I want to make the point of saying that I think that's a very good decision. It's the best thing that could potentially happen all around. It means now there's still over a month to organise things where people who were kind of reluctant to get involved for whatever reason, because they've got friends within Animal Rising, or they thought there was going to be some sort of division or fallout or anything else, all of that pressure's gone now, and it can literally just be the Animal Rights March again, which I think is great. I think that's the best thing that they could have done, especially with the amount of time that there still is. So I wanted to make a point of saying, I've been quite critical about them over and over again. Regardless of the motivations, I want to say thank you to them for that, and that's the best decision that they could have made going forward for everybody. I'm not. They've got a picnic, I think they've arranged. Is it a plant-based picnic that they've arranged for earlier in August, which they're going to sort of put more focus and time into instead, which is absolutely fine. But yeah, I just wanted to make the point of saying that I do think even whether it was forced or not, that's the best decision for everybody. It does. There's quite a few people that I'd spoken to who had said, well, I'd love to do this, but I've got a friend here, or I don't want to cause this problem, or I don't know. And all that's gone now. All of that's been removed, all of that pressure and all of that sort of animosity. So I think that's a good thing, definitely.
Andy, I think I was just sharing on Facebook, so I missed something. Did you say about this? They've got some alternative events. Is that the same day still?
No. If I might be getting the date wrong, but I think their plant-based picnic is something like the 12th of August. It's definitely not the same date as the march. No, they've basically moved completely away from doing anything from the march, and they've just kind of like handed it over to the National Animal Rights March, I suppose. 13th. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But the point is, they were saying that there was a whole series of regional things instead, or something.
I think the idea is that all these picnics go on at the same time, but in different places.
Oh, right.
That was my understanding of it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
like, you'd potentially have a picnic there. I'd have a picnic here. Someone else would have one in Brighton. Someone else would have one in, like, that was my idea, my understanding of it.
Yeah, Graham's going through the wars.
Oh no, my throat feels like I swallowed a razor blade. Doesn't sound too fun.
Yeah, it's
No,
not recommended either, is it?
no. I mean, no. It always makes me think, like every Halloween, you always get that story where it's like, be careful, because there might be someone who gives an apple with rat. I mean, I've never even heard of that ever happening, ever. Like, it's just one of those sort of myths, isn't it?
I
Like,
don't know.
is
It'd
that
be a
something
horrible
that
thing
is
to do, wouldn't
ever you've ever heard of ever happened to anybody, that there's actually been razor blades in an apple? It just seems like one of those scare things.
it? Right. Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, what do you think in regards to the march and Animal Rising sort of stepping back?
Well, it's obviously the best thing. The best thing to have happened in the sense that it leaves the thing clear now for the other organisers. And as you said, if anybody was worried about division and stuff, then they don't need to be anymore.
Absolutely. I mean, I won't name any names, but I know at least one of the speakers that I asked at first was like, is it going to cause a problem for me? Is this going to, and I can totally understand why they would think that and why that would be on their mind. Whereas now that's completely gone. There isn't that. I mean, luckily for us, they decided that they were going to speak anyway, but still, there's no longer that problem at all now. There's no pressure, there's no anxiety, there's no worry, which I just think it makes it better. It's going to be a better march for that.
And is the lineup of speakers set now, or is it still
Yeah,
being?
yeah. In fact, there might even be one extra that gets added now, because obviously before we were waiting for theirs, and now there isn't that problem. So there's extra allotted time, same as
So
anyone that
who have we got then?
that I can definitely announce. We've got Wendy, Ronnie, Gary is sending a video, and I can't think what Sean's surname is. But we've got I think there's 5 so far, and there's potentially one more that we might add to the list. But yeah, and there's a change of starting place. It's no longer Bond Street; it's Marble Arch, which was where the Animal Rising one was originally set. So it makes it better in that sense as well. It's more space. A lot of people that would have gone there naturally can still go there naturally, and the time has been moved from 11 back to 12, which was their time.
Oh, right, because I know Alan asked me to do a kind of promotion video for it.
Right. To change because obviously on the show it was 11, wasn't it? We were talking about then, and that's now changed to 12. Yeah. Obviously, when all those plans were made before, we were trying not to get in the way of their march, so to speak. Where there isn't that issue anymore, so the time is just completely free.
Yeah, it just means that my promotional thing is not usable then because all the details are wrong.
Yeah, so that's why I've changed my profile picture and cover picture and stuff. But luckily for us, like I said, there's still a month to push the new time and date.
All right, I'll probably get asked to do another one then, I guess.
Maybe. But yeah, I think it's much better, because I think last year the day, sorry, not the day changed, the place changed, the starting place changed, but I don't think it changed until about 2 or 3 days before. So there's a lot more notice this time. There's a lot more time for people to adjust. And I think there'll be more people now that want to go that were reluctant because they thought there might be drama or there might be some division. I mean, there never was intended to be. That was never the plan. Even when both marches were going ahead, they were all supposed to coexist. But there isn't even that issue anymore. It's just been completely eradicated, so to speak, which I think is just, it's a great thing all round. It's just a shame it had to come to what it had to come to be honest.
Yeah, and next year maybe they'll have it outside of London.
Wow, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? Because I mean, you know my feelings about the place. But yeah, it would be nice. Or even if like it was somewhere different every year, that'd be great. I mean, obviously you have to arrange it, but like if they started saying, right, next year we're going to have it in, I don't know, for example, Manchester. Let's start arranging it from now. And then the year after we'll have it like that and do it like that. I don't know why that couldn't work, because I know London is obviously the biggest and blah, 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 but it's for anyone who doesn't live in London, it's a real pain in the ass to get there, especially if you're coming from anywhere up north or south or wherever. It's a pain and it's expensive and it's hard to drive into. Like there isn't a lot of benefits other than the size.
No, it's a little bit like in Ireland, everything gets focused on Dublin, and so a few of the people in Dublin like to support the more regional things,
Yeah.
but it doesn't happen half as much as the other way around. And I know that in the 80s, when things were organised outside of London, you always got a lot less people because of that. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. And I mean, you got to think, especially these days, if you're coming from way up north or Wales or Devon or Cornwall, anywhere like that, it's a good couple of £100 for you to go there for the day, especially if you've got to stay over or anything like that. It's a decent sacrifice for people to make. So yeah, at least if they were more regional based, even if there was 3 or 4 consecutive ones that went on, that would make it a lot more accessible for others.
yeah. Well, again, the problem of doing regional ones and London is that a lot of people still go to London, I would think.
Yeah, they do. That's potentially the issue, I suppose. But no, I do quite like the idea of having it in a different city or place every year, and it kind of like gets decided almost like now sort of time or at the immediate end of the current one, and then it's like right, let's focus on this city next year and organise it there. And everyone's got a year to make appropriate arrangements. It would just take it around the country a little bit, and people that can't physically get to London might be able to attend one of the other ones.
Yeah, again, it's just a problem of traditionally people from the London area won't go north.
Well, yeah, I know, but they expect everybody else to go to London all the time, and it's not very fair.
No, I think it's to do with the status of being the capital city. That's what it is.
Yeah, but you have to pay capital city prices for everything.
Certainly do.
That's potentially the issue. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for that kind of autonomousness and people doing little mini ones as opposed to one big one. But I suppose at the same time, it's a good showcase of numbers if you've got one national march all together.
Yeah, so presumably then they can start thinking about getting the numbers back up to, 7, 8, 10,000, I suppose.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It'd be eight. I mean, I haven't got a clue how many potentially are thinking of coming because the social media event things are never a good reflection. But I would like to think now that with the announcements that have been made and there's kind of all of that pressure has been removed and it's just back again as standard as the National Animal Rights March, that a lot more people will potentially come who were sitting on the fence about it or waiting to see what happened.
When's the camp out?
Is that this weekend? Come in? Not obviously not now, but is that like next Saturday? I think.
All right. So is it being pushed heavily there? I wonder.
Camp Out, yeah, we've got flyers that are being distributed at Camp Out.
All right. Very good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Camp Out is next weekend. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, Millie says next Friday. Well, it's a 3-day event, is it?
yeah. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I thought that's coming up pretty quick then. Because I mean, I know. There's another festival in the middle of August. Is it the Tuesday? Oh right, there's an extra day. I didn't realise there was an extra day. Yeah, there's one I'm going to. I think that's the 19th of August. That's the Exposing Cruelty one. At the Farm Sanctuary. That Kev's speaking at that, by the way. A bit of free promotion for Kev. If you want to listen to some of Kev's poetry, that's in Evesham. That's the 19th and the 20th of August. The tickets are ridiculously cheap, and all proceeds are helping them raise the money to buy the land, so they no longer have to rent it. Which is obviously just massively beneficial to the sanctuary. So you're not even sort of paying into capitalism in that sense, if that's what your reluctance is. You are literally helping a sanctuary buy the land that they use. And then
Evesham,
obviously the
is that
march.
south? Is it, Andy?
Sorry?
Is Evesham? Where's Evesham?
Evesham is basically dead in between me and Ronnie, more or less. It's probably about 20 minutes from both of us. So it's in the West Midlands. I think it's Warwickshire is the county that Evesham falls under.
All right. Yeah. For some reason, I thought it was in the south, but I didn't.
No, no. Yeah, it's kind of like I mean, I would drive if I was going to go to Ronnie's sort of thing. I would drive a different way actually, but geographically, it's probably about halfway, as the crow flies, so to speak.
Well, the rule of thumb with Ronnie is drive away from him.
Normally follow him. There's big piles of leaflets everywhere. But yeah, so that one's the 19th and the 20th. So yeah, for some people, I would imagine that like August is going to be quite an expensive month if they go into a couple of these different things. I mean, just those three alone, if you go into the three of them, is quite a bit of travelling from all over the place. Camp out's in Oxford, isn't it? I think.
So, but you presumably would make the case for people to go rather than say put that money into local campaigning. But
What to
because,
camp out?
because
Oh,
the,
you mean
because
the exposing cruelty thing? Their tickets are from 15 quid for the entire day. So like it's not too much money
no,
for what you
I'm
get.
talking about the march.
Oh, sorry. What money were we talking about?
Well, all the money that you said it's expensive to get there and all that, right? And so,
Oh, sorry. So, yeah, I mean potentially, yeah. I mean, if you think just for example, on that note, actually, if you do need a lift from anywhere in Worcestershire to the march that day, get in touch with me because I've still got at least two spaces in my car. And obviously, it makes it cheaper the more people that we go. But yeah, on that potential note, yeah, if you look at say a bog standard train ticket from somewhere like Manchester to London, I bet it's the best part of 100 quid just for the train ticket. So like, yeah, I mean, in that regard, that money could be much better spent locally to do stuff. But I understand what the appeal is because everyone wants to be in one place at the same time.
yeah, I mean, but that's the argument. You see, it's not as though if you say to people, well, don't go to London, spend the money or give the money to your local grassroots thing. That bit won't happen. So the only thing that you can do is encourage them to go to London because they won't do the alternative, would they?
No, no. Yeah, I suppose the only other thing that we could potentially look at going forward, and this is something obviously we've missed the boat on a little bit this time because of time, but say for next year, if we're still in organising the march, we could look at, let's put on a coach, a 60-seater from this place, from this place, from this place, and make it as cheap as possible for everyone to go.
Yeah, that's what used to happen in the 80s.
That's not too difficult, is it? Let's pick some of the bigger cities and let's make there's a coach available. This is the cheapest we can possibly get it. And same as like again, we haven't had enough time to do it, but we could have a group a bit like they do with Camp Out, where it's like, look, car sharing and carpooling and all that kind of thing. So yeah, if we'd have had the extra time, then those are things that we could definitely look at, which would help people, but it wouldn't necessarily change it from going outside of London.
Yeah, it'd be great to find some vegan kind of coach drivers, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I mean there must be, by the law of averages, there must be one or two.
Yeah, but like a subsidised thing would be really good if
Well,
I
the one
mean,
the one thing that I will say that's happening at Camp Out this year, I think I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago on here, is We the Free are setting up a bus this year that does go from Camp Out to, I'm sure it's Oxford City Centre, and they're going to go and do some outreach there for anyone that wants to go and do some, which I think is great.
yeah, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, it's been mentioned a couple of times over the past, and I think there was some reluctance on Camp Out's part. But I think this year it's all been arranged. Yeah. So I'm not sure how big the bus they've got is, but I'm sure it's a coach, so a decent amount of people can go from Camp Out, and they're only going for a couple of hours, so you get there and get back. Just go doing some outreach, but just thinking potentially let's utilize the fact that there's going to be thousands of people at Camp Out.
Yeah, you got to take turns in pedaling.
I don't know the area well enough to know whether it's accessible even if you can't fit on the coach and you want to go, whether you can just pop along or not. I'm not sure about the geographical area of it, but I know that they're putting on a coach, yeah. And I suppose if there was enough demand shown beforehand, they'd book two coaches, right? Like it's not impossible to just book an extra one. So I suppose it all depends on the demand. But yeah, it'd be great if we could have a couple of hundred people turn up to do outreach for a few hours one time, because that's the kind of media coverage we want. Not media coverage about some dickhead finding an eyelid in their mints. That's not the media coverage we want. Like we want media coverage of look how many people turned out to educate others. So it'd be great. I mean, it probably wouldn't get media coverage, but those photos would still circulate on social media, and it would really make a difference. I say that quite often about the Sabbing thing. Like some of these times, you just wish you could get a couple of hundred people to turn up to Sab once, and the hunt would probably really think going forward whether they wanted to deal with this. When it's half a dozen people, they don't care. They're not. It's not enough to put any serious pressure on them, sadly. But I mean, and that camp out would be another great way of doing that. You know, on the Sunday, for example, put a bus on, find out where the local hunt is, and go and sab it, a couple of hundred of you, really make a difference, really show you, you know, the strength of unity of people. But it'll never happen, sadly. But it's a
Yeah,
nice
that
idea.
was the Northern Animal Liberation League idea about sabbing, that not to go every week, go about every 6 weeks, and
Yeah.
actually have so many people you
Can you
stop them
imagine
doing.
the effect, right, of say just take one of these random hunts where they usually used to dealing with anywhere from 3 to 10 people, and all of a sudden there's, I don't know, 150, 200 sabs still there. You'd seriously consider whether you wanted to do the hunt again, not just that day, but like in future. Like if this was potentially going to be the opposition, we can't do this anymore. Well, they've never had to deal with that, and you'd only have to do it a couple of times to make a real impact.
Well, it really depends on whether they knew you were going to come back or not.
That's it. Yeah, you'd have to sort of they'd have to know that potentially this was going to happen again. But I think that if you did it once successfully and you realise that it had that effect, there's nothing stopping it happening again and again and again. Yeah, but I
it
don't
used
think it would have to happen all over the country. It would only really have to happen in a couple of places because they all talk. They're all interconnected. If they know it can happen to one of them and they know that potentially you can travel and you're willing to travel and you are willing to show your strength, it will soon have an effect, a much bigger effect than, you know, not doing it. And it's not impossible stuff to organise. It really ain't. We're not talking about impossible stuff. I mean, how many people from how many countries are travelling to camp out? So we're only potentially talking about organising everyone meeting at one event once, just to show a real show of strength. And there's a real good chance that it'll get cancelled within a moment of them seeing you there because they won't want to go out. So then you could go and do some outreach or something afterwards. But like it wouldn't take a huge amount of organisation to get. We're not talking thousands either. Just a couple of hundred would really show it, especially in places where they normally deal with 3 or 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there used to be these things called national hits in the 80s. When there was some violence, they would be just shut down the following week. You know, to try to kind of get them to be less violent. You know,
Yeah,
didn't always work, of course, but some were more violent than others. You know, some people, some of the hunts had a kind of reputation for it. You know, it's a little bit like certain football teams have got fans have got a reputation. You know, and so they kind of play up to it. You know.
yeah, yeah. But no, I mean it's one of those things that like obviously it's still very early days, but this little group of people that are currently organising the march, there's nothing stopping us once the march is done, start looking at some other autonomous stuff or whatever that we can sort of try and encourage others to get involved in, or even there's nothing stopping us potentially looking at organising something like that. Pick somewhere which you know really needs the help and see how many people we can get to turn up on a specific day. It's not impossible stuff, and yet it would make more of an impact than a hell of a lot of the stuff that we are doing just in one go, one day, one weekend.
Yeah, it'd also be a good way of networking and all kinds of stuff. You know. So.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Lots of people went to Camp Beagle last year after Camp Out.
That's good to hear because if I remember rightly, they tried to put a coach on last year to go from Camp Out to Camp Beagle, and that was rejected. So I'm glad that happened.
Mm.
And yeah, Millie, you were exactly who I was thinking about. Somewhere like that. Imagine if you just all of a sudden had 100 people show up one day. They'd all go home and they'd seriously reconsider whether they wanted to ever go out again. And we've got those numbers. You know, we talk about what we can't do all the time in terms of we haven't got the numbers to influence politics. We haven't got the numbers to do this. That's absolutely right. But you know what? We have got the numbers to do things like this. We have got hundreds of people. We definitely have.
And obviously, it's quite weird now because you'll be sabbing something that is on the face of it supposed to be banned.
Yeah, well, exactly that. And everyone potentially will have cameras now in their pockets as standard and all this kind of stuff. You don't need to have all these special gear. Just your presence is enough. The numbers, the fact that you're there, you're willing, that's potentially all it would take. Yeah. And it wouldn't take that many times before this word spread around. So
Quite
yeah,
depressing, isn't it? Because I think on one of the Boxing Days they can still get about 25,000 people out.
yeah,
You know, around the country.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, on Boxing Day, obviously, there's New Year's Day as well. Quite often, there's quite a lot of people that go out, but yeah. But I'm just talking bog standard, random, run of the mill sort of hunts that just happen most weekends. That if you just went to one of them where it's usually three, four, maybe even as many as 15 people, all of a sudden you've got 150 people to the point that they can't even get the quads down the road because the road's blocked with bodies. Like, yeah, that would make such a wave across the nation, especially if that happened two or three times within a short period of time, a month or 6 weeks or so. Yeah, because they'd be thinking this could happen at any time. We don't want to spend all this money and time and energy going out if we're going to have to turn around and go home straight away. All the hangers on that aren't actually genuinely, impassioned by the hunt, however you want to call it, that, the weird traditional type people, just those that hang on, they'll soon stop going because it's not worth their while anymore. A lot of these people attend these things to improve their business, to do deals or to talk about politics or whatever, whatever, whatever. A lot of them are just literally hangers on, and those people would soon fall away if there was any real problem. It's only because they've usually got the majority of numbers. It's only because they've got the police in their pockets and the CPS in their pockets. If all this stuff changed, it would change real quick. I agree fox hunting is wrong, but hunting is fine because man's got to eat. Well, man does eat. So I don't understand how you can agree that fox hunting is wrong if hunting is okay. What's the difference?
Because they don't eat the foxes, he means.
Why not? No animal goes to waste. Same ethos. If that's it, if it's a moral stance? What's the difference? I'd like to know.
I wish I was a skinny mini.
You'll be a skinny mini if you just eat rabbit food. Okay. Well, I probably wouldn't eat rabbit food personally. But what is rabbit food? Are you referring to, say, like grass? Do you think that's what vegans eat?
Dandelions we eat.
I was going to say, it's not Christmas. You have that once a year. Not that lucky. I had twigs and brambles earlier. Eating beef as I watch this. Original? Not heard that one before. Hi, Tim. Hadn't interacted with the chat for a little while. Kind of regret.
Well, we just had a bit of an influx of that. Of the
Yeah.
interesting posts.
It's probably because I sounded like I was angry. I mean, I wasn't. That's just passion, by the way. I'm not angry. I've gone past that angry stage. I spend every minute of every day angry. If that was the case.
Somebody said that you were fuming for some reason.
I know. I noticed. Yeah, I'm not fuming. I'm not. You'd know if I was. Trust me. But I'm not. I mean, it's disappointing. It's disappointing that we've got. I mean, it's disappointing that we're even having this conversation about something that's actually banned and illegal. But even more disappointing that, like, the numbers that we do talk about sometimes we don't have, and why we can't do certain things, and why we're not ready yet to do this, and we can't change that because we're not big enough. These are things that we can change. We are big enough to change. We are big enough to influence. We are big enough to really make a difference against. Personally, we have got 150 people that can turn up somewhere at one point. We've proven that time and time again. We've got thousands that can travel to a camp out from all over the world. So we can do these things. We've definitely got these numbers. It's just a case of organising it and making it happen. But these are things that we could actually make some real difference about, rather than just thinking, oh, we're not big enough yet. I genuinely think we are big enough to influence things like that. Absolutely. And it wouldn't take too many times for it to happen before that influence really started to spread around the country.
To contact the HSA committee.
Yeah, well, it's definitely something I think is worth doing. Because I honestly believe that in less than half a dozen times of that sort of unity and those sort of shows of strength, that would really have a massive effect on whether they wanted to continue doing this. At the moment, it's kind of like the Virgin Media example I mentioned the other day. Like, what is their incentive to stop hunting? Because then the numbers that go out and sab it aren't really sufficient to make them change anything. The legislation, although it's in place to protect the foxes, doesn't do anything. They get away with it. The police almost always attend and, if anything, arrest the sabs. So, like, what's their incentive to change? Nothing. Whereas if all of a sudden there is actually some pressure on them and there is hundreds of people turning up, like that is some incentive, that is some pressure finally, that is some sort of like, actually, we're going to have to address this. At the moment, there isn't that. And it's a real shame because there are brilliant people going out every single time and their efforts are kind of in vain because there are lots of other people that aren't joining them when they could.
Yeah, I wonder what the police attitude is when they arrest the Sabs, because the first thing the Sabs will say is, "Well, hunting's supposed to be banned," you know.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, well, the normal line is obviously that it's a trail hunt or a drag hunt, so they're not actually it's not illegal. That's normally what the police will say. Oh, well, they've assured us that this is what's happening, and we're just here to ensure that there's no breach of peace. Do you not want to? I mean, I thought, I used to when I was younger, I used to watch like The Bill, and like The Bill taught me that when the police get given some information, they investigate it. They don't just accept it on face value. Go, oh, cool, no worries. They investigate it and they check it and they'll actually like follow and think, is this a drag hunt or is this a trail hunt or actually there's a good chance that they don't know where they're going and these dogs are genuinely following a live animal. No, they don't do any investigating. They don't do any fact checking. They don't do any of that. They just go, okay, no worries. We'll just make sure that the Sabs don't hurt you then, even though it's the other way round. That's the police basically. Yeah, there's no let's turn up completely impartial, look at the evidence and make a fair decision. No, it's what are you doing? Oh, you're just doing that. Okay, that's fine. We'll make sure that these people that are here to protect the animals don't bother you.
I just want to address this thing from Meat Hunter. I can't be vegan because Indigenous people can't be vegan. There's quite a lot of Indigenous people who are vegan, and they're always quite upset when people make this claim.
They are very upset, yeah.
Because they are vegan. Veganism is a philosophy. It is true that Indigenous people might have more difficulty aligning, what they're up to with their kind of ethics, but it can be done, and there are quite a lot of Indigenous vegans. So
Absolutely. And I mean, I suppose quite a lot of those Indigenous people that struggle to do some of these things because of their ethics or maybe their limitations on how they live, so for example, probably struggle to come into TikTok lives as well. That would be my thinking. But there's a great group called All, ALL. They're a New Zealand group. They did a great documentary actually about the history of the vegan movement, and they cover quite a lot of these topics, talking about essentially, I mean, that they're from New Zealand, so it's all their own culture and their own history, but they cover all of this really well. I'd highly recommend you go and watch it.
Hey, we were talking about that documentary last week, weren't we? About the wolf in your living room, and you found
and then I found it.
didn't
Yeah. I still have. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, because it's not very long, and it's actually narrated by Desmond Morris, who's the guy who wrote The Naked Ape.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and then Ronnie pointed out that there's one about
I saw there's a part 2 about cats.
Yeah, Tiger on the Tiles or something.
Yeah, that's it. Tiger on the Tiles. Yeah.
I haven't seen that one, but I remember, and it was the 80s. It was 1988.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was interesting watching that again.
Do you think? I mean, like I said, I haven't watched it yet. Is it worth enhancing and chucking on the playlist, or?
Well, it doesn't really have an ethical message. It's more to do with animal behavior, really.
Okay.
So it's basically saying, if you think about what dogs do, like turning around in a circle, there's a reason for that, and rolling in dung and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's to hide their kind of scent, even though they don't need to. And it's really weird actually, because I went for a walk the next day after watching it, and there were some dogs doing this. And
yeah, I mean, it's when I used to do the dog walking, some of the dogs finding fox poo and rolling in it was like the highlight of their day, and it's such horrible stuff. There's a reason that carnivores normally bury their poo in that sense, because it's vile, horrible stuff. It's always much worse than herbivore poo. If you tread in a cow
well, that's another difference, though, Andy, between dogs and cats, because they also said in this program that when you see cats, they have a poo and then they'll bury it, whereas dogs just seem to make a complete mess. That's because the dogs are actually drawing attention to it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, actually, you'll quite often notice, and I mean, I can speak for my dog when they do this. So he's a boy, so he will cock his leg up like, say, a tree or a post, and all the urine will actually go on the tree or the post, and then around the area, nowhere near his wee, he'll do the scratching. So it is,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
right.
all
Yeah,
to bring attention to his
yeah,
where
it's like
yeah,
a signpost. Yeah,
absolutely that, yeah, yes, yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
it's totally the opposite, yeah. And I mean, Salt makes a point of talking about the difference in that and like how they go to great lengths to hide their poo because they know it's toxic, and yet we're leaching half of this stuff into the environment all the time. That's in our soil and stuff. But yeah, you always do notice that. Like, I mean, a cow pat might be massive, but in comparison to treading in one of those versus cat poo, yeah, it's night and day.
Oh yeah, it's a bit different. And you even got the sport of throwing cowpats.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
can't
yeah.
imagine a sport of
Oh,
throwing.
cat poo's disgusting. Yeah, so that's it though. But you do notice
The
that.
cat poo Olympics, folks.
Well, if I remember rightly as well, although this information is coming from watching Train Spotting, isn't there you can potentially die from the toxic fumes from cat poo, can't you?
Well, from any poo, actually, because there was this story about how a whole group of farmers died because, well, except for one, because their dog had fallen
Oh
in.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's right. Yeah, I know that story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, they all fall into the slurry pit, don't they? And it's
yeah,
not
and it
drowning that.
increases in toxicity as it just kind of
That's right.
stagnates.
The more they disrupt the surface of it by falling in, so to speak, and then
Yeah,
swimming around. Yeah, they didn't drown. They all basically passed out to the fumes, didn't they, and fell back in.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, and so they eventually had to wait for the fire brigade with breathing apparatus, but most of them were dead by then.
Yeah, that's right. Because if I remember, the girl lost, what was it, a dad, both the brothers, and the dog in the space of about half an hour.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, none of it would have happened if you weren't oppressing others. I'm afraid. You know, I have got sympathy, but it didn't. It was all needless. That's the problem. But yeah, it just shows the monumental dangers that exist. Because I mean, that was just a freak accident that the dog fell down. It wasn't it, you know.
Well, there was no covers on the kind of manholes,
No,
as it
I
was.
would have imagined since then, because it showed the photo, didn't it? And they were that wide open concrete things. I would imagine that they've now got some sort of grate on them at the very least.
Yeah, you'd expect so.
Because I'm
Yeah.
assuming they're open to let the fumes out, right? To let the fumes escape. But they could still put like a grated cover over it with the gaps inside, like a cattle grid.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm assume it kind of helps disperse the
It's the only
fumes.
thing that I could think of why they were open, unless it made it. Because I mean, if they had a drain cover over the top, if it was a case of sweeping it into or fluorine it into, it would still go down the cover. So I'm not really sure personally, but you'd have thought there'd have been some safety measure over it, and there wasn't. Horrible way to die, though.
Yeah, well, also those, you get stories of farmers falling into the grain silos. And
Yes.
I mean, the idea of drowning in water in
Drowning in
that,
grain, yeah, I know. Can you
yeah,
imagine such a thing?
yeah, it's kind of like horrendous just to think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Because I've always, I don't know why, since I was a kid, I always had this fear of drowning. And I think it's because of this thing that, obviously if you fall in the water, you try and hold your breath, right? And then there's going to be a time when you know you've got to inhale.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I always kind of visualized that when I was a kid. And it kind of, frightened the socks off me kind of thing.
Yeah,
You
a
know,
lot of people, have got a natural fear of drowning, but I suppose thinking about it, it's one of those things that could literally, it's really realistic. It's really possible. It's not like, dying because you've fallen off a cliff, which is obviously you've got to be in the situation. It's kind of, it could happen at any time. So I suppose that the fear makes a lot of sense. And most people have had probably one experience in the swimming baths or anything that went a little bit not too well that probably sort of emphasizes that a little bit. But yeah, drowning for me is a horrible way to go to. Yeah, or burning to death. Anything. I don't like any of these kind of things. It's just horrible to think that there's so much sort of death and violence that goes on, and so much of it is because of things we don't actually need to do at all anymore. And there are literally ways that we can avoid this, and people are still like, nah, worth the risk. Yeah, because you're not the one taking the risk.
Yeah, well, many people in the chat will know Nella from the Animal Rights Show, and she's
Yeah.
obviously based in Greece, and she had the unfortunate experience of having to go on a rescue mission after all the. I think there was like a coast to coast fire recently again. I think it's happened quite a few times, and of course they had to go and rescue those who had managed to escape the flames. But obviously, you then find lots of the ones who didn't make it. So it's quite an upsetting thing to do, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Much respect to her for doing that, but it's just tragic, isn't it? And again, I mean, they don't even get considered for the most part, do they? When they talk about like when they briefly talk about these things on the news, they only ever talk about even the property destruction gets a mention, but what happens to the free living beings?
Yeah, well, funny enough, Nella wrote on a group that she was expecting that because that's the usual thing, that they're not even ever mentioned that their deaths, but apparently they were counted this time.
Oh wow, that's interesting to know.
Yeah, and she said it kind of like really changed the news focus and everything. So I don't know whether that was a particular news outlet or what, but she was quite shocked that they'd done
Well,
it
yeah,
because
I am. I mean, but that is encouraging to hear that they're actually considered for once.
what's up, Rouge? Uh, Joanna's asking how Rouge is. She's vocal at the moment. She's doing a few behavioural weird stuff at the moment. Like she's kind of like spreading her food all over the place when she eats. I don't know why she's doing that. And she's been extra kind of throwing litter around all over the place, and I don't know why she's doing either of those two things. I still got a bit of a worry that she's not particularly enjoying life that much because I don't think she's enjoying her food that much.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but well, she's doing a lot of purring, and she seems happy enough
Well, yeah, when she
sometimes.
was on your lap yesterday, I mean, she was purring
She's
really loud.
purring
Did you
now.
talk?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Interesting.
I can hear her again. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, her purr has increased in volume. So I don't know whether that's just because it sounds like that because it's lower in terms of tone.
Yeah, maybe. Could well be. Just while I remember, John stroke, Chris stroke, Dave, whatever we're calling you. Could you send me either a text or a message on here with your address, please, and I'll send you some more books out. Thank you. Oh, Ronnie's just joined.
Ooh, come on, Ron.
Come on down. Hi
How you
there.
doing, General?
Hello, can you hear me?
No.
Yeah, yeah, we can.
I can't stay long, but I don't think you're going on much
No,
longer, are
that's
you?
fine. I'm only going till 9 o'clock anyway. Yeah, so that's fine. So you got 15 minutes to tell one of your stories.
Oh, blimey. Have I got one that's as short as 15 minutes, though? That's the only
That's
thing.
yeah, that's a
Probably
good
haven't,
point.
no. Yeah, I've just put all my stuff in the car for the stall tomorrow, and I had to do some printing for it as well. So that's what's taken me the time. So, yeah, I'm
Have you
glad
got
I've
have you got that rain there? It's been absolutely smashing it down
We've
here
had
all day.
we've had terrible rain today.
Yeah,
Hopefully, it's not going to be as bad tomorrow. I think last year the same show, it was two. I was due to go where I didn't in the end because of the weather was so bad. But it doesn't look quite so bad. But it depends what it's like in the morning because it can
yeah.
change really quick.
Well,
I'll have to
hopefully
see.
it continues. It just hammers it down all night, and there's no rain left by tomorrow morning.
Yeah, yeah. I just have to see. Just have to see what it's like because there's been a few events today. I wasn't due to do one. Well, I was due to help at a street collection for Animals Asia today, and that was cancelled. And there was some
Because
other
of the weather.
because of the weather. Yeah, yeah. And there was some other local events. There was a friend of ours was doing. She makes vegan cakes and savouries, and she was due to do a stall at an event in Stourbridge, and the whole thing got cancelled. The whole event was in a park there, I think. And I think it was, I think it was Stourbridge, it's somewhere around there anyway. And the whole thing got cancelled, so she
Oh,
wasn't able
actually,
to.
I did see that pop up on one of the groups. Yeah, I did see that. I think it was
She had a
Stourbridge.
load of she had a load of stuff left, which I think she was selling off to people. I think it's probably people have bought it all because her stuff's really popular. It's really really good quality stuff she makes. So I don't think she was out of pocket. I think she managed to sell it all.
Oh yeah, the cakes are always popular with the vegans, aren't they?
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, I like her savouries. She does some lovely savouries, and I actually prefer them. The cakes are nice as well because they're not too sweet. I find that some people make when they make cakes, they're too sweet, and I'm not keen on that. But hers aren't too bad. You know, they're not. She doesn't put too much sugar in them.
That's good. Yes. So if you want to, you can feel free to promote your event tomorrow. I don't know how many people that we might have local, but you never know.
Probably. Well, it's Birchill Dog Rescue. They've got a fundraising show on. It's at a place called the Far Forest Showground, which is near Bewdley in North Worcestershire. Um, and it's I haven't done the last time I did a stall at one of their shows. It was a park in Stourport, so this is a different location. But I think they've been doing it at this new place for like probably 2 or 3 years now. So yeah. I mean, hopefully it'll go well, and hopefully the weather will be all right because it can be. These things are so dependent on the weather. That's the trouble when they're outside events.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Well, no, what we did start the show briefly talking about the Animal Rising dropping their March. I mean,
Yeah.
in sense, it's great for us, isn't it? In the sense that there's no more of that hostility or division or anything else. It's relieved all that pressure.
It gives the organisers of this one a clear run, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Which is
exactly that. Yeah, and
uh,
it means that no one. I mean, hopefully as well, which is why I made the point of sort of starting the show by addressing it. Hopefully, people stop sort of having a dig at them about the march now as well, and just leave it. It's done. It's finished. The line's been drawn. We just move forward.
I think as far as the march is concerned, yeah. I mean, I think there are other um,
Oh
problems
yeah,
with
it doesn't
them, but
absolve any of the claims making. Just in regards to
no,
the march, yeah.
for the march, they've done. I mean, they've done the right thing to do this. They've done the right thing to kind of pull out and allow other people to, to do like a proper animal rights march. I think that's good. I think that was a wise decision. I think that obviously to be applauded for for making that decision. I think that's they did
Yeah,
the right thing.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
One thing I was thinking of though, Andy, I don't know whether you've done it already, but the video that you made to
Yeah, I
promote.
know the video that I made needs to be changed. Yeah, because it's got the wrong date. Sorry, the wrong
Yeah,
time and place. Yeah.
I think everything else is. I think everything
Yeah,
else is.
I've updated the description on the videos on YouTube and stuff, but yeah, it is on my list of stuff to do. The problem was I didn't save it as like a file so I can edit the video, so I basically have to remake it again. So it's not
I mean,
really.
and another thing, one thing that came up in the discussion that Roger and I had about it was that on neither events, obviously the Animal Rising event's not there now, or it's labelled as cancelled, but on neither of them was veganism mentioned. I don't know whether that's been changed now on the animal rights one, but
I haven't checked the page. It's definitely been addressed in regards to
yeah.
it's been mentioned in all of the chats. Yeah, absolutely. And then we had that flyer discussion, which kind of brought it all up again. So yeah, they're definitely well aware. I'm not sure whether it's been amended as of yet,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
definitely is meant to be amended.
It's
Yes.
it's an event to promote. One of the aims of the event is to promote veganism, isn't it, to the public? The other thing is, are there going to be leaflets? I know there's leaflets being produced to advertise
To
the
promote
march.
the event, yeah, and
To,
then
yeah.
there is a flyer that will be printed to be handed out at the event.
Oh right, yes, that's
So
good. Isn't
the flyer that's being printed to promote the event is being printed like this week, early this week, because it needs to be done for Camp Out.
it?
The
Right.
National Animal Rights March, Giles. Yeah, so that needs to be done for next weekend. So that flyer has already been designed and ready and is sort of being done. But the one that's going to be handed out at the march, we haven't done yet.
And is that one going to encourage people to go vegan? Is that one of the
I'm
things?
I'm 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 not agreeing to submit to it. Otherwise, yeah.
No, that's good because it's just that
It's that simple. Yeah, we can't make this kind of complaint against Animal Rising and then not fix the complaint that we're
oh
making.
no
I think
no
that's
no
absolutely,
no
yeah, I totally agree.
because normally I encourage people to bring leaflets along and give them out, but if there's going to be enough of the
Yeah, there,
if
there,
the
there is. I haven't got the link to hand. There is a fundraiser that we've started, and basically, the more money that's raised on the fundraiser, the more flyers we get printed.
so basically rather than because Alan's asked me to do a video promoting the march, which I'll do fairly soon.
Yeah,
And it's just what to say in it because I think last year I said to people to bring along flyers, but would it be
I,
better to?
I potentially would still encourage people to bring along their own stuff, but yeah, because I mean, the last thing that we'd want to do is not be able to get enough money raised together to print enough
No,
flyers for
because
everyone
Well,
to
because
take them
the thing
out.
on that though, lads, is, I mean, Ronnie, do you know the few leaflets now that are on? I mean, what's the site called, Andy, where you've got those two, the green one and the blue one, and the
Oh, for the
leaflets?
ones we did.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'll pull the link up so everyone knows.
yeah, I think the
Well,
difficult
it's an offshoot from the website, but the actual direct
yeah
link, I think, is
yeah
literature.helpgoingvegan.info.
I think the difficulty with that is not everyone may have the facilities to print them out.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, exactly that.
that's the only difficulty. It was just that it was just that if there were going to be enough of the leaflets produced, the specific leaflets produced, by the March to be given out, then I could just encourage people to, when you get there, get some of the special leaflets that have been produced and help give them out. But if it's not certain that there's going to be enough of them, then it's probably best, as Andy says, to encourage people to bring
Yeah,
leaflets along.
I think that's potentially the best thing to do either way, just in case. Because I mean, like I said, I would hate for us to say, "Don't bother bringing leaflets," and then there's a problem with the printer or anything.
I can
You
say
know?
there will be leaflets
Yeah,
available
yeah,
printed, but
yeah. I mean, there will be leaflets available because there's obviously other little smaller groups that will bring in their own stuff and all that kind of stuff, as there always is. So there will be leaflets available. That's a fact. Whether there's leaflets available for every person, I don't know.
well, it's just I mean, not everyone wants to give them out, and it's kind of important to have enough people distributing because you are talking about large crowds of people, really.
Yeah,
At the time.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, well, I'll do that when I do me. I'll do it when I when I get time. I don't know.
But yeah, in terms of the leaflets, yeah, it's just about how much money is raised, I suppose, and then the more money that's raised, the more leaflets get printed. So yeah,
yeah,
in theory, we could have enough, more than enough, but it all depends.
yeah. Let me.
Did anybody want to talk to Tiny T? Aren't you destroying animal habitats to create them leaflets? Isn't
No,
that
because it's from recycled paper from a vegan
But
printer.
the thing is, if just one person um, probably goes vegan because of all those leaflets given out, it probably make up for whatever. But I mean, you're talking about leaflets that are going to be produced in the most ethical way, and maybe by using recycled paper or by recommended.
Yeah, I mean, literally, the ones that don't take any of those things into consideration are cheaper. But we're not using them.
Yes,
So
they are.
yeah, it is
Yeah.
something we thought about. But what I'd want to know is, why do you care about habitats when you destroy life every day? You acquire life to destroy life, but that doesn't matter to you.
Yeah, and also the thing is that animal farming destroys, a massive amount of habitat. It destroys habitat in terms of forests being cleared to grow food to feed to farmed animals, and also being cleared for land for those animals to graze on. And in addition, if we didn't have animal farming, it would free up a load of land that could then go back to forest and another kind of natural habitat, which would be brilliant for animals living in the wild, and would also be brilliant in terms of combating the climate crisis. So, the major destroyer of habitat, the biggest destroyer actually of natural habitat in the world is animal farming. that is the number one. It is the number one destroyer. So if we can educate people to go vegan, adopt a vegan diet, that will help to preserve and restore a massive amount of habitat.
Absolutely.
But I mean, it's kind of clutching at straws, isn't it? Talking about the leaflets,
Yeah, I mean, when you are a cow exploiter, that is your job. Like it's hard to sort of figure you've got a point when we're talking about leaflets.
Yeah, because if the number one thing that someone can do if they care about the preservation of natural habitat is to go vegan. That's the number one, the most important number one thing they can do in their own life.
We do it to feed people. You're doing it to brainwash people. But you're feeding people a moral food.
Yeah, but we're not advocating that people aren't fed. We're advocating that people are fed more ethically, and that they're fed more efficiently, and that indeed that they're fed more healthily. We're not advocating that people aren't fed. We're just advocating that people are fed in a much better way, all across the board.
Correct. Yeah.
The food. It's important that if we have a choice as to what the food we eat, which we do, we can eat a wide range of different foods. If we have that choice, then we have a duty to choose the most ethical way to eat, don't we?
Yep. And then literally, if it was all about just producing food out of the goodness of your heart to feed people, it would be free. It's not. Because it's a business. It's not about feeding people, it's about making money. And then you could make money, you could grow plants, you could do something else, so you could definitely still make money, you could definitely still feed people, and we could remove the rights violations, but you don't want to hear that.
Well, yeah.
We're literally going through our bingo card tonight. Veganism involves animal deaths. Our ancestors ate meat.
Our ancestors ate a wide variety of food. There's people, some people the other side of the world, in a few small areas, eat dogs and cats. So, all right, does that mean we eat dogs and cats as well? Is it all right for them to eat dogs and cats?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that our ancestors used to do when there was like some sheer corruption that was going on and some tyranny, they'd actually do something about it. So why don't we ever replicate that kind of attitude from our ancestors? I'm not necessarily saying that go and behead everyone and put their head on spikes, but maybe actually some action somewhere would be great, rather than just yeah. Because that's your attitude.
Some humans eat other humans, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's their tradition. So, okay, that's their tradition. Brilliant. Let them carry on with it. No, I mean, it's important that we make ethical decisions in terms of everything we do in life, and our food is one of them.
I totally agree. Is there anything that anyone would want to add? Otherwise, we're at 9 o'clock. So,
yeah, no, I just look forward to. Hopefully, I'll be able to make the one next week for the full hour or however long we're going to.
No, hopefully we should be back to normal next week. Yeah. It's just the one-off, shorter one.
Smashing. I hope you get your internet sorted.
Yeah, I get paid Tuesdays. Hopefully, I'll just get sorted Tuesday. It's just a couple of days. It'll give me some chance to do some of my projects that I keep procrastinating about. So
I'm sure it's not. You won't be kind of lying around doing nothing.
No, that's it. There's quite a few things I've started and not finished, and blah 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 blah. So that's something that I'll get on with. Yeah.
Yeah, get on with it, Andy, you lazy bugger.
Well, that your did you know video is one of the things that I'm thinking of, because I'm pretty sure that I've got everything that I need. So that's one of the things. I won't be able to upload it until the middle of next week, but I potentially can do that video. That's one of my projects that like keep getting pushed to the side to do other stuff, but I actually can't do any of those stuffs with no Wi-Fi. So
you keep pushing me to the side. I see.
It's because it's like I've seen that as something that's like I can do that when I've got the time to do that, and this is perfect opportunity now. Whereas everything else I've just been doing because it's come to my brain sort of thing. So yeah.
You should see my to-do list.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
No, yeah. I don't want to see that. No.
It's very long, Roger.
Yeah.
And the to-do list.
Well, the top of my to-do list is get off this live stream.
Yeah, we better go before it
Yeah,
concludes.
and on that note, as always, thanks so
Yeah.
much,
All right.
everyone. We'll speak to you soon. Take
Cheers.
care. See you
Bye-bye.
later.